Hey, what's going on everyone? Gareth here, FCP Euro. Welcome back to another DIY video. Today, we're going to be talking about the basics on what you need to know in order to successfully replace the spark plugs and ignition coils on your vehicle. The first step in any ignition service is to open the hood and get access. Some cars will have additional components like an airbox, PCV system, manifold, or even just a beauty cover over the ignition components. Others won't. Either way, you want to make sure you have the most unobstructed access as possible. Now you can disconnect the connectors to the ignition coils. Usually these will be able to be disconnected by hand, but sometimes it may take a screwdriver or other prying tool to get them loose. Just be careful not to pry too hard, as these components are almost always simply plastic. Now you can remove the coil packs. We suggest removing coil packs and spark plugs when the car is warm to allow the rubber sleeves to be malleable. Sometimes a coil pack will be held on by a small bolt, others will simply stay in from pressure and the electrical connector. Once the ignition coil is out, make sure to inspect it for any fluid residue both on the ignition coil itself and in the cylinder. If you see fluid or debris in either, make sure to clean it out before continuing on to remove the spark plug. It's great to see that there's no oil or anything on the ignition coil itself. Sometimes a leaking valve cover will cause oil to leak inside of the spark plug tube. You do not want to go ahead and pull the spark plug in that situation without cleaning that oil out first, because that oil will get inside the engine, obviously into the cylinder. And it could cause a hydrolock situation if there's enough oil that goes down in there, so you don't want that. Also, similar situation, dust, debris, anything like that, you don't want that to fall inside the engine either, so go ahead and make sure that the spark plug tube is clean from that. Best way to do that is with compressed air. If you don't have compressed air available, you could use a shop towel, something like that, to go ahead and remove as much debris as possible, but the whole thing is you are opening up the engine, you don't want any foreign material to get inside of it. Spark plugs can sometimes have a unique head on them, so be sure you have the correct spark plug socket for your application. They can come in all types of shapes and sizes. What's important is that the socket is thin enough to fit comfortably into the cylinder head without making contact with the walls. They often also have either a rubber or magnetic bottom to help capture the spark plug when removing from the depths of the cylinder head. Once you determine what size socket you need for your application, you can begin to remove the spark plugs. It is recommended to work one cylinder at a time, replacing the spark plugs and ignition coils so you do not leave one cylinder open for too long and allow debris to fall in. So this spark plug that came out was very loose, which is not great. I guess it's better than being way too tight, but in a situation like that, it's possible for oil to come up past the threads, and do see a little bit in there that would advise cleaning up before installing a new one. We did that, but I'm gonna go ahead and install the new spark plug. We're using this spark plug installation tool. You can do the same with like a piece of vacuum hose or a piece of rubber hose. With the old spark plugs removed, you can install the new ones. Make sure you do not use anti-seize, as modern spark plugs are coated from the factory and do not require any form of anti-seize. It's extremely important to hand thread in your spark plugs initially. You do not want to run the risk of cross-threading them accidentally, which can happen easier than you think given many modern vehicles use aluminum for the cylinder head. We offer a spark plug install tool that makes it almost impossible to cross-thread a spark plug. Make sure to reference your car's specific torque specs when torquing down the spark plugs to ensure you do not over-tighten them. Now we're going to go ahead and install our ignition coil. Ignition coils will sometimes have some kind of dielectric grease in the connector here, or spark plug boot if you will. Now this one does not have any. I'm going to use a very, 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 very sparing amount. In fact, the unit of measurement, we're going to call it a skosh. We're not going to put the entire tube in there. We're just going to go ahead and just put a nice little dab. This will help this insulate and seal, and it'll also prevent the spark plug connector from sticking to the ceramic on the spark plug and making it impossible to remove later on. And that's it. Once you get the last ignition coil installed, you can reinstall any covers, close the hood, and be proud that you just completed an ignition service on your car. So as you can see, no matter how simple or complicated it might seem, it's really not that hard once you get past the basics. Obviously on the Porsche we had to do a little bit more work to gain access to those spark plugs and the ignition coils, and on this Mini it's right there in front of you, but the basics are pretty much the same. You just want to know what you're doing before you get yourself into the job, and doing a research ahead of time is going to save you a lot of effort and time while you're in the middle of doing it. We hope you learned something. If you have any questions or comments, leave in the comment box below. If you like this video, hit that like button. Also hit subscribe, we have a lot more videos on the way. As always, we'll see you for the next one. Thanks for watching.